I'm Fred Wilkinson, Chief Editor of the National Provisioner. Today I'm speaking with Dave Friedlander of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Dave's here to share some research that NCBA has done on summer grilling and what that has meant for beef and beef products. Dave, thanks for joining me. Just to get into it, I guess, what beef products are trending in the grilling category these days?
It's interesting. You're always going to hear your steaks and your burgers tend to trend and go to the top. And our most recent data are suggesting that we're continuing to see gains over year ago levels. So, of course, your New York strips, your burgers and things like that. But we're also seeing a pickup in our tenderloin and our T-bone. And then we're seeing some in our value added, specifically our flat irons, our flanks, some of your ribs and even your short ribs, which are interesting in that you don't necessarily hear much about it. But I was just looking at data this morning and we're seeing a little bit of a pop on those short ribs coming to life. So I don't know about you, but man, a good short rib it's hard to beat. It is hard to beat. And then last but not least, some of our sirloin and tri-tip are also popping as well.
Okay. How you mentioned value-added products? How are value-added products kind of shaping the market for beef for grilling?
Yeah, as we look at the value add, a few things come to mind, but one of the things that really does sort of rise to the top is sort of that pre-seasoned, pre-packaged mix. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that really in some of the chuck and the flank and things like that, which is fantastic. In fact, we were just talking to consumers a few weeks ago out in the field, and that pre-packaged piece really does save that time. The consumers are looking for, hey, I want to get that meal out quickly. I want to get it done quickly. So it's ready to go, ready to prepare and throw on my grill. We're seeing those pop. In fact, again, looking at the data this morning for sure, and then as we think about some of the generational pieces, specifically that Gen Z and even the younger millennial, they love to talk about it. And those seasonings specifically, the Mexican, even the Korean barbecue, we're hearing some of those pieces come out, which is exciting. And we love to see this younger generation embrace that beef mantra and share that meal. So we're actually seeing some of that too come into life with those flavor pieces. You've got your flanks, which are fantastic for grilling. You throw them on there with a little bit of marinade, really rise to the top. Our skirts, even our chucks, and then our sirloins really do nicely for us. So we're seeing some of that in that value add category.
I hear a lot about sweet heat, hot honey type flavors. Have those been popular for beef value added beef products as well?
Unfortunately, I can't speak to that specifically. As I was looking through some of the data this morning, I did not see that called out in terms of what driving that grilling piece or that grilling section. So I can't speak to that. But what I do know is that particularly among this Gen Z group, this cohort, they love to try new things, that hot, the spicy. What can they tell their friends about? So I would just say anecdotally, it wouldn't be surprised if some of those characteristics that we just talked about or that you just mentioned aren't coming to life. So that would be sort of where I would land on something like that.
Okay. What unique value proposition does beef offer consumers in the grilling category?
Well, I love beef here at National Cattlemen's, and I got to say that I'm one of those that really does have beef part of the menu just about daily, if not daily. But, we know that 70% of our consumers are eating beef at least once a week. And what's exciting about that is when I say, hey, what did you have for dinner last night? Over 40% of our consumers are saying, hey, you know what? I had beef last night for dinner. And then as we look at that, it's like, oh, that's fantastic. So what are you eating, right? You've got your burgers, you've got your steaks, you've got your other things that are rising right to the top, even your beef brats. And as we think about grilling, what's driving on that grilling piece? Well, it is your burgers, it is your steaks. Even those beef brats, and of course, not a surprise, your hot dogs, because they're kind of easy to put on the grill. In fact, we did a study in 2023 that suggested that over 95% of our consumers are planning on grilling over the summer. And I would say that's going to be a consistent note for us. So how do we lean into that? Where does grilling sort of bring those notes out, particularly when we know that beef is first and foremost, as consumers think about a protein, convenience and versatility, and that taste. And hey, great for special occasions. When you think about those occasions and bring people together, beef really does rise to the top. And I like to talk about, hey, if I'm having a party and I'm going to throw that grill, I'm going to get my grill going. I'm having people over. It's like, hey, what are you grilling? Well, I'm cooking a non-beef protein. As soon as I start talking about beef or steaks or burgers or steaks, it's like, hey, what time is it and what can I bring? I mean, beef really does tell that story for us. So again, I feel like we do a fantastic job just delivering a really top product consistently to our consumers, and our data shows it day in and day out. So it's just a great story for us, and really just a great message.
We talk about summer grilling, and traditionally you think about grilling in the summer, but for a lot of people, it's a year-round thing, even in colder climates. How has that affected kind of how you market beef products to the grilling category?
What's fun here is we're always looking for ways to leverage our consumer and gain that insight for them to help them understand what and how they can use our product. And it's one of those things, if you go to Beef, It's What's for Dinner, you'll see it there. We actually see, and it's fun, and that we'll see those pops for beef specifically around our big holidays, whether it's, that Christmas, New Year's time, Valentine's Day, believe it or not, myself included, love a great steak at Valentine's Day. And we see that pop around Valentine's Day. Super Bowl's another one, or the big game, I guess we should say, is another time that really does pop for those burgers, those steaks. You're having your friends together, you're throwing some ribs on the grill. So how do we leverage that? We really do talk about, and Haley could probably speak to this better than myself, getting that message out about the convenience, versatility, and just the great taste around that beef product and how we can bring that to life for our consumers. So what the beauty of beef is that we are a literal year-round consumed animal protein. The only day that we don't, quote, win, if you will, is Thanksgiving. And not a surprise, turkey does win, unfortunately. But we do like to talk about some of those alternatives that people are looking for something different than turkey. And when that's the case, we feel like we've got a great product to offer, and we're going to win.
Yeah, I think you've put a standing rib roast up against a turkey. I know which one.
Every day.
So, anyway.
Oh, every day. And our data, definitely, we see that pop for sure right around, Thanksgiving. But even brisket too. Brisket's another fun one to talk about because, we're seeing some fun stuff around that brisket and brisket category. So particularly around the value cuts.
Well, Dave, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.